2 Kings chapter 5 verse 1 reads, Naaman, commander of the army of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master and in high favor, because by him the Lord had given victory to Syria. He was a mighty man of valor, but he was a leper. Verses 9 through 14 read, So Naaman came with his horses and chariots and stood at the door of Elisha's house. And Elisha sent a messenger to him, saying, Go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall be restored, and you shall be clean. But Naaman was angry, and he went away, saying, Behold, I thought that he would surely come out to me and stand and call upon the name of the Lord his God, and wave his hands over the place and cure the leper. Are not Abana and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? Could I not wash in them and be clean? So he turned and went away in a rage. But his servants came near and said to him, My father, it is a great word the prophet has spoken to you. Will you not do it? He has actually said to you, Wash and be clean. So he went down and dipped himself 7 times in the Jordan, according to the word of the man of God, and his flesh was restored like the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. May the Lord add a blessing to the reading, hearing, doing, and understanding of his most holy word. As a title, I want to use these words. You want cheese to go with that wine? That's W-H-I-N-E. You want cheese to go with that wine? Y'all know what I mean by whining, don't you? Whining, when we start to speak in that high-pitched, usually nasal, complaining voice. Most of the times, we're whining because we've been inconvenienced. Or we're just complaining. We learn to whine as children. We learn to whine as children because whining was a way of getting our parents' attention. Children want their parents' attention, even if that attention comes from frustration or anger. You are effectively whining when you combine that high-pitched, nasally shrill with the complaining that goes along with it. And y'all, the complaining and the high-pitched shrill is what makes whining so annoying. You know, there's actually research on whining. There is research. The studies show that people tend to view whining as one of the most distracting sounds on the planet. It's irritating, and they say that it's noisier. It ranks higher than nails on a chalkboard. And people, y'all, people are notorious whiners. Y'all, we whine about everything. In the summertime, we whine. It's so hot out here. And in the wintertime, it's so cold. And have you ever noticed that when you're around whiners, you start to whine too? Because I'll be watching y'all sometime. And I'll be reading your lips. Is he going to preach forever? And then you lean over and say, I know, I was thinking the same thing. Yo, whining can be a problem in the church. Some churches have cultivated generations of whiners. People get to the point where they stop associating the church with worship and start associating it as the place where you go to whine. Some folks come to church so they can join the whining ministry. And it gets to the point, the problem is that it gets to the point where all people are able to see is what's wrong. Who wants to worship in an environment like that? And in this text, apparently, Naaman had joined the whining ministry. He had leprosy. Leprosy, y'all, leprosy was always a fatal illness. If you had leprosy, you were going to die. And the Lord had led Naaman to Elisha. Now, if you were at Bible study, you would know that Elisha is a different person than Elijah. Okay. Somebody studied some stuff. But the Lord had led him to Elisha, who was the protege of Elijah. I did that just to show off those who know. And while Naaman was with Elisha, you read it, he whined the whole time. He whined because of the way that they ministered to him. Elisha didn't come out himself, but he sent somebody else, and he expected him to perform some kind of magical and mystical hand gestures. He whined because of the place where he had to go to be ministered to. Why do I have to go to that dirty, nasty Jordan River when we got some perfectly good rivers around here? He whined because of the simplicity of the ministerial act. Why did he have to come all the way down here just to take a bath in a dirty river? So if I were there, I would have asked Naaman, do you want some cheese with that wine? But y'all, the same way that Naaman was whining back then, folks, church folks, are still whining today. They whine about the same things. They too whine about the way that the church is ministering to them. Naaman said, I thought that he would surely come out to me and stand and call upon the name of the Lord his God and wave his hands over the place and cure the leper. Even today, y'all, people are still whining about the way that the church is ministering to them. Some people believe that the church has not kept up with the times. They believe that in 2019, the church should be more accommodating to topics like casual sex outside of the sanctity of marriage. The Bible calls that fornication. They believe the church should be more accommodating now. This is 2019. They believe that the church should be more accommodating to the view of homosexuality being called a sin. They believe that the church should be more accommodating to gambling and the lottery. And guess what? Many churches have heard the whining and responded to the cry. Just like parents who decide to give their children whatever they want so they will stop whining and crying. You know what? When you see that kid whining and crying, giving him what he wants is not what that little brat needs. Amen. What he needs is somebody to tell him no. That's what the church needs. And let me tell you why. Jesus met a lady at the well. And the lady at the well, he told her that, he said, listen, true worshipers are the ones who worship the Father in spirit and in truth. That's the kind of worshiper that the Father is looking for. Amen. You see, God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. If we're going to worship him in spirit, y'all, we're going to have to learn to worship him with all of our heart, with all of our soul, with all of our mind, and with all of our strength. Because that's the way he wants to be worshiped. And if we're going to worship him in truth, then we're going to have to learn how to worship him according to his holy word, the way that he said he wants to be worshiped, not adding to it and not taking away from it. So, the problem is not about the church keeping up with the times. The problem is that the times keep moving away from the church. And it'll be a problem if the church starts moving away from God. Just because people want a little cheese to go with their wine. Not only are they whining about the way they minister, the people, they were whining about the place Naaman was whining about the place where he had to go to be ministered to. He said, aren't Abana and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? Why can't I wash in them and be clean? Yeah, and even today, there are people who are whining about going to church. The people they're whining about organized religion. Organized religion that meets at a certain place at a certain time. I have to tell you, though, this argument usually comes from intellectual whiners. They've been to the university. They've studied mathematics, and they have mastered the Pythagorean theorem. They've studied science, and they've gained an understanding of Einstein's theory of relativity. They've studied human psychology, and they have debated the Freudian theory of personality. They've studied philosophy, and they've read and studied the written works of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. And now the likes of you going to try to tell them that the only way for you to worship, the way that you to worship is to come to a certain place and worship God at a certain time. You have to do all that to worship a God who's everywhere. See, I'm smart now. You got to come to a certain place. Oh, yeah, and don't forget that when you come, bring your tithes and offering. Because the church don't ever forget to tell you to bring your tithes and offering. Organized religion never forgets the money. Look, one man said this. This is a quote. He said this: organized religion is a sham and a crutch for weak-minded people who need numbers, who find strength in numbers. It tells people to go out and to stick their noses in other people's business. He said, but I live by the golden rule. Treat other people the way you want them to treat you. Organized religion tells people how to live. Why do we come to a certain place to worship a God who's everywhere at all times? It's not, church, it's not because the church wants to control you. It's not because the church wants to get in your business. It's not because the church wants to get in your wallet. It's not that the church wants you to be dependent upon it. But the reason is because the church is already dependent on you. You are a member. You are a member of the body of Christ. You are a member of this local body of baptized believers. You're a member. Paul explained it this way. He said, look, you see, you are a member of the church in the same context that my foot is a member of my body. And y'all, I depend on my foot. I need my foot. My foot helps me it helps the rest of my body to move from one place to another. My foot, even when I'm not moving, my foot, if I'm just standing here, my foot will bear the weight of the rest of my body while I'm standing still. And while I'm standing still, my foot provides stability so I can keep my balance and keep from falling. If it were not for my foot being there, if my foot wasn't there, I would truly miss it. In this local body, as you reflect on your role in the church, you may not be a foot, but know this, even a nose hair has a purpose. And if it falls your lot to be a nose hair, then you go out and be the best nose hair that there ever was. Why? Because the body needs you. The body needs you. Don't let your intellect weaken us as a body of Christ. Just because you want a little cheese to go with your wine. Finally, Naaman was whining about the method that was used to minister to him. Text says Naaman, y'all, he had turned and was walking away. And one of his servants came up and they said, are you really going to walk away? He said, the prophet has spoken a good word to you. He said, all you have to do is just go and dip yourself in the waters and you'll be clean. And you're not going to do it? And then he said this. He said, if he had asked for some great and mighty feat, you would have done that. Y'all, Naaman was walking away because he was skeptical of how simple that it was. Even today, folks are still skeptical about the simplicity of gaining eternal salvation. Salvation that is eternal and permanent. That once you are saved, you are always saved. That you are put in a position where you cannot lose your salvation. And folks start whining because that's too easy. But the Lord let me know something. He let me know, yes, salvation is easy. How easy is it, preacher? It's easy like Sunday morning. If y'all didn't know, I didn't write that. I always wondered what Lionel Richie was talking about when he says easy like Sunday morning. But y'all, it came on, I had my eureka moment. Y'all, you get to a point where you have your aha. Oh, I got it. Look, so let me explain to you. Let me help you help me. I want to help. I want to be helpful. But you can help me. So watch this. I'm gonna do the first one here, and then you can help me with the next one. So watch this. Look. If you have something with a lot of cheese on it, it's cheesy. Okay. Now you help me with this one. If you go outdoors and there's a lot of breeze, it's breezy. Very good. If I give me some hot wings and they got a lot of grease on them, they're breezy. And if it's Sunday morning and your mind can be put at ease, it's easy. Like Sunday morning. Because there's something about Sunday morning that can ease your troubling mind. There's something about Sunday morning that can give you peace in the midst of your storm. Something about Sunday morning that can give you the courage to just continue on just a little bit further. Something that makes Sunday morning easy. You see, something happened early one Sunday morning. You all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And the wages of that sin is death. So do you remember how you were drowning in your own sin? Yes. Do you remember how you had gone too far? That you were in too deep? That there was sin all around you? You had sin above your head. You had sin under your feet. You were drowning in your own sin. You felt lost and all alone. You had no real joy in your life. You had no real peace in your soul. No one could help you. You felt like you were without help and without hope. You couldn't breathe because of sin. You needed somebody to rescue you. You started to choke on your own sin. You needed somebody to rescue you. Sin was filling up your lungs. You needed somebody to rescue you. You might have tried to call on mama, but mama couldn't rescue you. You might have tried to call on daddy, but daddy couldn't rescue you. You might have tried to call on your best friend, but your best friend couldn't rescue you. But y'all, whosoever calls on the name of the Lord, whosoever calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved. You needed Jesus to be your lifeguard, to be the one who sits up high and looks down low. And when you needed him most, church, he came down, born in a lowly manger in the little town called Bethlehem to the virgin named Mary. Walked the face of this earth for 33 years, healing the sick, raising the dead. He was betrayed into the hands of sinful men. Had to carry his cross up on Calvary's hill. He did that on a Friday. Oh, they hung him high. In church, they stretched him wide. They had a crown of thorns on his head. Oh, he bled for you and he bled for me. For without the shedding of blood, there can be no remission of sin. He died on that cross. They buried him in a borrowed tomb. He was there all day that Friday. He was there all day Saturday. But there's something about Sunday morning. Something about Sunday morning that can ease your troubling mind. Something about Sunday morning that can give you peace in the midst of your storm. Something about Sunday morning that makes things easy. You see, early on a Sunday morning, God raised my Jesus from the dead. And when he got up, church, he had all of the power of heaven and earth in his hands. So my mind is at ease, church. I'm easy. My soul is at rest now. I'm easy. I'm not drowning anymore, church. I'm easy. I'm easy like Sunday morning. Can't nobody bring me down because I'm easy. Can't nobody take my joy because, church, I'm easy. Can't nobody steal my peace because I'm easy. And there's no need for any cheese to go with my wine. God bless you.